know how this class is going to go.
Yeah, I can cut it for you.
Okay, here's pens for you guys in case you need them. Eric's the best.
Who's Eric? I was paid $15 to show up to this teaching.
My big part.
Everybody's gonna have their phones.
Isn't that how the classrooms are nowadays?
It is. Alright, you guys ready?
This is just in case anything pertinent in the NFL.
Alright, it's on silent at least.
Is it never on silent? You ever heard my phone go off?
I've never had it go off. Alright,
No.
so I guess we'll go ahead and get started then. Joff. Alright. Well guys, welcome back to class. Remember last week we just talked about assessments briefly. We'll go over that in just a little bit, but I want to go over what we're going to talk about in today's class so you guys kind of get a feel for what to expect today. First thing we're going to talk about is key diagnosis pieces when we do an assessment. I talked about last week we're going to be doing some big comprehensive diagnostic assessments. We had a little discussion about how they're a big key whenever we're doing assessments and the counseling techniques in general. If we don't do a good diagnostic assessment and figure out what's going on, we won't be able to build a solid treatment plan for our client. So that's what we're going to go over today. Diagnostic assessment and how to find the key pieces to get a diagnosis. We're going to practice a case study in which we'll have to diagnose, and we'll be able to diagnose and write up. This is the third one. I didn't do the second one. So we're going to cut this.
Okay.
I'm going to come back. Yes.
Wrong learning outcomes.
We're going to get to this one in a little bit. So let me get to
Do it out of order.
You want to like stop that?
No, it's alright. I'll just have you
Jeff
cut
knows
it.
how to-
Oh. Oh, you know how to
Just
do
forcing
the
Jeff. to
Take
do
two.
it.
He's so
I appreciate
cute.
you cutting for me. Alright, are we ready? Sorry for that one.
What are you talking about? We're just beginning.
That's right.
Hey, remember last week? That was a good class.
Last week was a good class. Alright, welcome back guys. So this is our second class in assessments. Last week we went over just briefly the different types of assessments, the different categories that they fall in, and the importance of doing assessments. We talked about that if you can't do a good assessment, you can't build a good foundation for your clients and the treatment moving forward. So, what we're going to talk about, there we go, our outcomes for this class so you know what to look forward to. You will identify the purpose of our comprehensive diagnostic assessment. We'll practice a test here in the class to gain experience. So I've got some handouts for you guys that we'll go over. They're very simple. Some of them that you may do when you're in practice will be a lot more thorough and in-depth. This is just the basic one that we'll practice. And at the end of the session, you will review the assessment process to ensure consistency across the board. So I know last time when we did some scenarios before, I had you guys pretend that you were unprofessional and do the worst kind of assessment possible. And we wanted to get that out of your system so you knew an inappropriate and wrong way to do assessments. This week we'll go over how I want you to do the assessment with your partner, and after you get through part of it, I want you guys to switch and your partner will do the same for you. So we have any questions before we get started? Excellent. So, our previous lesson we went through all the types of assessments, what they're for. We talked about IQ assessments, we talked about assessments that can be used for depression, for drug addiction, for anxiety, for bipolar and mood disorder, for gambling addiction. A list goes on and on and on. So we covered some of those. We talked about the importance of the assessments and how you need to be very thorough. You need to ask the questions in a professional and unbiased manner. So now we're going to go over the initial diagnostic assessment. So, what is it? It's in the name. It's a comprehensive diagnostic assessment where we will go over every aspect of the client's history. We'll look at their age, their race, their gender, their family history. We'll go into any work experience, school experience, physical, biological ailments, and then basic symptoms that they're experiencing. So it's very comprehensive. It goes through a long list of different things that the client may be experiencing. Why is it used? This helps build a framework and a picture for our client. When we get a thorough assessment, we know exactly what's going on in different parts of their life. whether it be with family, personal, friends, internal, or external. And is it effective? I'll ask you that, guys, again once we get through the assessment process ourselves. So, the purpose. We want to assess the client in all areas of life. So how many of you guys, just showing your hands, if something is throwing you off, maybe you're not sleeping properly or you're not eating well, you can tell it throws off other parts of your life? Absolutely. So the point of the assessment is to identify where the problem lies. So we dig deep in all the different layers to determine where the problem is so we can try and help fix that. Like I said before, it helps form a picture of the client. You're going to get all this information. A lot of it you may never use, but it's good to go over it so now we know exactly what the client is like. And as I mentioned before, we're going to peel back all the layers and identify possible causes to the problem. So, here's some of the important things when it comes to doing the assessment. As I said before, our last class, I had you guys do a poor job doing assessments. I want you to be unprofessional, sarcastic, make jokes about it, even question if they're being honest with you. When we do these, we don't want to do any of that. We want to be done in a professional manner. So I know when we do it in here, it's not a professional setting exactly, but I'll have you guys do it the best you can with each other. I know you guys know each other, but you know, for the purpose of this, try to be as professional as possible. Also, when we get to it, I think if you guys want to be yourself and answer honestly, that's appropriate. If you want to create a persona of somebody who has some deep ailments or issues, that's fine too. Have fun with it if you want, but at least take it seriously when you're doing the assessment. All questions need to be asked and answered. Do not skip over any questions. That's a key piece of it. You cannot be thorough if you're skipping any of the questions. And it can take time to complete it thoroughly. Usually it takes about an hour to ask all the questions, and then it will take additional time afterwards to write it up, fill it out, and come through with a full picture of everything that's going on. Anytime you meet a new client, it should be done consistently with each one. So every time that you see a new client, you ask the same questions with them. If something comes up during the assessment that you want to dig deeper on, make note of it, so that when you start doing the sessions, you've got little notes to help you out. Ask the questions in an unbiased manner, because you don't want them to feel guilty for coming in to see you. How many times have you guys talked to a friend or a loved one, and they feel like they're judging you based on the conversation you're having? After that, you don't necessarily want to talk about that anymore, right? That's not what we want in this setting. So we want it to be unbiased. And we hope that we can be non-judgmental so that they can give us the information we need. They're putting a lot of trust in us when they come to see us. So we have to be respectful in turn and honor that trust. So, this is where we're going to come into the role play activity. I've got assessments for you guys. It's 4 pages, it's also front and back. So what I want you guys to do is just glance over it real quick. And then I want you and your partner to kind of go through it a bit. Like I said, you can come up with a persona if you want, so that you don't necessarily have to be yourself. But I at least want you to get through as much as possible. Excuse me, and after some time passes, we'll switch it up, so then I'll have your partner go through it with you. So, I'll go around just to make sure that you guys are doing it in a professional way and that you're getting through the questions as professionally as possible. A lot of it at the top where it says clinician, practice name, contact number, location, address. These are all stuff you can fill in before or after you meet with them. The big thing we want to get through are the questions after that. So we want to get through the presenting problem, the demographic information, and then the questions on the other pages. Do you have any questions before we get started? Excellent. So go ahead and pair up. You and your partner start going through some of these questions and fill them out the best you can. Which one of you guys are going first?
Presenting problems, so
Yes. So if you're going to be the client, he's going to be the one doing the assessment. He'll say, so how did you come in? You know, what is the big thing you want to work on? And that's what he'll fill in notes for.
So basically, he's filling in my information.
Yes, that's it. So you'll be asking him the questions, and he'll be asking you.
Gotcha.
Make sense now?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors, or?
Why are you here?
Do you need help getting started? Okay. So I know that these could be like the first time that you see the client. So the first thing I do is I just talk to them a little bit. Tell me about yourself. You don't necessarily have to start with this one, but you want to get to it at some point. So you can start with some of these, or even over here. You know, you can say, so tell me about yourself. You know, it's your birthday. You know, do you have any siblings, any relatives? What are some of your interests? Different stuff like that. So if you can take a minute again to review this assessment, because there are no questions. As long as you get through them, that's okay. The order's not the most important. What is important is that you build that rapport and you get all the information.
Because a lot of these seem to come from, they're not questions, they're just how they answer the other questions.
Yes. So you could go through the presenting problem, but then you could ask them questions about, tell me about yourself. When were you born? You know, have you always lived in the area? Stuff like that, just to get as much information as possible.
That's one of my favorite things to do, like with this
And as you can see, there's stuff in there that talks about their previous history as far as mental health goes.
I tried to.
We'll go over these with them as well. So if they have suicidal or homicidal ideations, we'll go over those types of things too.
It's probably best to just pretend to roll.
Yeah,
So
it
we
may
don't
be.
get deep and then realize, oh,
It may
frick,
be.
someone's messed
So you
up.
said that
Well, a
you
lot
were-
of times when people do it in role play scenarios in the class, they like to just create a character. I know my character, I forgot.
Is
I
this
think
something
mine
that-
was based on 300. I think mine was Leonidas.
Come and go, was
Never
it
saw
more
it.
recent?
Yeah, I made mine Leonidas, and his
Something
issue
to,
was he
you
had
know,
poor
document
respect for
for sure.
authority. That's kind of the persona I made. So you guys could have fun with it. The key is though to practice the questions and build that rapport with your client.
Ask this question. Past psychiatric history.
I know it seems a little intrusive, but the reason you ask it is if they've been hospitalized in the past, you want to know about that. If they're at risk of being hospitalized again.
What is this identification for? What's that?
That's the basic information about them. So their name, their age, you know,
So I
stuff
don't
like
need
that.
to do
Yeah. That's on the second page, looks like.
So for
The identification, yes.
a lot of
Psychiatric history, stuff like that.
the issues that we deal with come from our past and we pass down to our family. Do you have any past psychiatric history?
And this is part of the reason we do it in class too, because I know it can be uncomfortable going into some of these questions with people. I mean, you're doing it with somebody you know, even though they're creating a character, this is somebody you know. Imagine doing that with a complete stranger, and they're putting that trust in you.
Yeah.
And you normally take these down in the notes
I know.
as well, not like in a paragraph. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. I usually make
I'll be
notes
Robin
of it and
Williams.
we type it up later.
I'll be Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, perfect.
Wow.
Too soon?
Do you have any?
So go ahead and go through it with him, get the information that you need from him, and try to get as thorough an assessment as you can.
I don't know what's the definition of trauma.
How's it going with you guys?
We want to know what the definition of trauma is.
Suffering
Yeah.
some
It can be vague.
personal
I know.
depression.
For you, something's traumatic.
And
I
too
know.
afraid to admit it.
So, I mean,
child. I went to go get all my baby shots at one time. Like,
That's
before
traumatic for
kindergarten.
you.
And it
So
was
make note of
like
it.
10 times I had to get the shot with the needle. And then my dad ripped off all the band-aids.
But the purpose that you ask it, like I said, it may be traumatic to your client, but not to you.
Yes.
So fair use.
Okay.
And that's where trauma came from. Everybody experiences it differently, so the vagueness of it almost helps out in a way too.
This is not their scientific issue. Good thing I get notes. Do
Exactly.
you have any fascinating history of your own?
Like depression?
Anything that would be psychiatric?
Whether you've met with another clinician, a therapist, whether you were hospitalized, whatever.
I've never hospitalized. I did suffer from depression and eating disorder.
Depression.
I have a plan. I don't. I'm scared, which is why I came to you and talked to you about it. Instead of taking the different course of action.
I'm guessing you
Are you
have
on any current medication?
no means to act,
Liridine and breast
you
control.
have no intent.
I'll give you guys a few more minutes,
There was intent.
and then we'll switch it up. You guys will
Can't lie to you.
change positions.
No substance abuse, except alcohol and medication.
I need to ask you the questions, though, even though you have the handout. Make sure he asks you the questions, because you won't have the handout in front of you.
But now,
What
If
do
you
you,
were fine.
what's the family history on
You don't have
this? Is it related to substance or is it just?
Yeah, it can be related to substance abuse, because they talk about,
You don't want to kill
um,
anybody.
oh no, definitely.
you go down to the substance abuse
I wanna
with the family.
kill people with kindness,
any
that's it.
mental illness,
With jokes
any,
and laughter.
like chronic illnesses or conditions in family members. So the family history will be very extensive.
No. So what's the so I guess substance
It would be
abuse.
easier if there was a question.
And like I said, this is a very vague and general one. The ones that you will do in practice will be much more in depth.
Much more conversation.
Yes.
So just two word answers.
Yes.
Do you have any legal history?
How long?
Issues with the law in the past?
You know, taking medication for like accidents.
Been battling it ever since I took that back. All these different personas. Trying to figure out who I am.
What's your educational history?
Anything for position?
No.
Because so I'm the first position.
Where you go to school?
Randolph.
What are you studying?
Education.
What do you have to do with that?
Has anyone in your family ever been
Second grade.
diagnosed with this?
Any particular school system?
I'm not entirely sure
Don't know yet.
about my family history.
Public school?
Yes.
You'll get that
You,
sometimes. As much as the diagnosis, the assessment wants to go in depth.
No, you have to.
You might get clients that will say,
Content area tested each
I don't
area
know.
to be
Because
able to
maybe
license you.
the people in the past didn't have the courage to do it.
Absolutely.
You never know. They
It might
could be
have
the
been
first
some-
one to actually
Yeah, I didn't know because
seek help.
And it might not have been talked about either. So it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to get that answer too.
Yeah. One of my friends,
Not
her
written, you have to
father
take
killed himself.
practice two
Mhm.
testing for each subject area. And you have to pass each even.
So we never talked about it or anything.
I figured that was the case.
Committed suicide.
And it can be tough because a lot of people don't know or go undiagnosed. And studies show depression can be hereditary. So it's good to know that. That's why we asked that in the assessment. So I'll give you guys about one more minute and then we'll switch it up.
All right, what drugs do you have?
What drugs?
Kind of strangulation. Like
Heroin,
thin.
cocaine, black or heroin?
Have like 3 friends, 1 boyfriend. That's about it.
How long did you interview?
2 days, a couple hours.
I would phrase that just a little different. Instead of saying what drugs you've taken, because in that one, if we go back,
Last
that
2
kind of
days,
goes into
couple
judgmental or a biased tone. So we want to try and do it. Have you used drugs in the past, or are you currently using drugs? So it doesn't make them feel guilty.
How often do you say you spend time with your friends? On a weekly basis?
Well, sometimes they blow me off to go do other things like baseball, watch baseball. For some reason, somebody works a lot. So
We're getting deep over there.
Do you think
All right, guys.
Yeah, I'll change it up.
Come to a stopping point, and then we'll switch it up. So your partner will be the assessor, and you will now be the client.
So now it's my turn.
Yes, you'll be the assessor.
Think about more. I didn't keep one.
All right. Who are you? Welcome to my practice. I'm glad you came.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your name?
Schwartz. Tell me about yourself. What do you like to do? Stop playing this ball. With all your friends.
I like to play Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Hang out a lot with good friends.
You don't know your name. Is it an
I work a
identity
lot.
crisis?
Normally when I'm not working, I'm either playing Pokemon, wrestling, hanging out, watching TV, or
You may get a
something
difficult
along those
client
lines.
from time to time that may not want to give a lot of information. So in that case, if they say, I don't know,
I'm not a big
you can say, well, what's your legal name? Or what's on your ID or your license?
It's bad.
You know, something like that.
All right. So
I don't keep it in the house, so therefore, it's outside.
can I call you John? John Smith?
What brings you here today?
All right.
Well, I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I'm just tired a lot of the time. And having negative thoughts. That's it.
What kind of negative thoughts?
Not good enough.
Let's see here. Do you believe that you have any family history?
What do you think your lack of
Other
sleep?
family
Little
members
notes.
going through something like
I
this?
think you did a great job there putting that in quotes because that was directly from him. So that was a good job putting it in.
But I know of.
During this activity, but in practice, if you get quotes from them, it's good to put quotes in from them.
Well, since I've already got an A, you know where your lack of sleep comes from? Do you just have hard time sleeping at night, or do you?
It's okay.
Sometimes if it's at night, it's
All
overthinking.
right.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Dead. Okay. Seems you're well rested today. So, how much have you had this problem?
So
You know, the lack of
who you
sleep.
are. Let's talk about this.
Negative thoughts.
What kind of thoughts do you
Lack of
have?
sleep.
Do you have issues with
3 or
sleeping?
4
Do you
years.
have any personal
Negative
issues
thoughts,
in regards to
like
suicidal thoughts? Do you have
years.
homicidal idea?
I'm not lying here.
This is so
Do you
sad.
prefer
I know it's
alone time? Do you
we
prefer
know
to be with friends?
we know the people in here.
Can't go with the assessment immediately. Everybody level.
This is sad.
So I know it's the evolved
Okay,
in the
above.
assessments to kind of keep a straight face because you know him personally. I'm going to safely assume that when you're in practice, you'll be able to keep a unbiased approach to it.
Judgmental person here. Past psychiatric history?
In my